This video will be on the reassembly of an Acura NSX bumper. This will be relevant for a 1991 through 2001 NSX, so any NSX that has the flip-up headlights. Okay, first let's orient this so we're looking at the backs of the bumper. Okay, now we're set up and ready to get going. The first thing I suggest you do is install the lower splitter. I did not install it. You can see that this bumper is already assembled at this point. That's the last piece that I'm putting on. I have a reason for that, but I think in order to protect the bottom of the bumper, it's probably the best first step. To install the lower splitter or bumper skid guard, you need 13, this combination, so you got your nut plates and then also your bolts. Alright, so I decided to put these bolts together to figure out what's what. Next, we need to put 4 nut plates on the upper bumper. One's here, and then the same on the other side. These are the smaller nut plates, and they go here. Whoops. Bolt side back. And on the side here, bolt side toward the inside. And we repeat that for the right-hand side of the bumper. We can now connect the 2 bumpers. First, we want to kind of get them both on top of each other. As I noted earlier, because I had an error. So now we're again using the smaller nut plates, and they are actually on the top portion of the bumper, which comes down beneath here. And with the bolt side down, they slip under here. So all 6 of the nut plates are on the upper bumper assembly. And we do the same on both sides. So we have 2 things to pay attention to on each side. The primary area is here, and it's pretty straightforward. It just kind of slides in here. And then in addition to that, we have the side area here, which also has some clips in it, and there is a tab that comes through here. Now we'll slide the 2 together. So 2 things to pay attention to. On this side here, there is a little nub that kind of comes through the top here. So when you kind of pop this in place, this little nub comes through. In addition to that, on this side, we have these little tabs that come through from the bottom bumper through the top bumper, and we kind of snap those in place. We do the same thing on both sides. With that completed, we have 2 plastic push pins, look like this, and they go into here, like that on both sides. And you want to clip them in real good, and I'll show you a little bit more on that. So these are not the easiest clips to get in, and you can see I've actually already put them in and taken them out for the video. But you want to push them all the way down, and you want to get the head of this bolt underneath this seam. Kind of slide it back. There you go. That's what you want to see. The head of the bolt is under that seam, and now we have a real solid, tight connection here. Now we want to install all 7 of these Phillips head bolts with the rubber grommets on the back of them. 6 of them will go on the nut plates that we just installed, and the last one will go on this sensor. Important note, although all these bolts looked the same, there's one that is not. You can see that it has a slightly lower collar than all the other bolts. That bolt is specific to the sensor. So those 2 go together. So bolt number 1 comes from the opposite side, screws in here. I would say pretty snug, but not too crazy. You don't want to split the rubber grommet. Next is this bolt here. And then this bolt here. And our final bolt, again, the short collar bolt, which is used for a sensor. I believe this is a temperature sensor. The sensor is oriented like such. This little clip clips there, and we bolt that guy on. If you do not have the front emblem on your bumper, make sure to put that on if you want it done the way the factory did prior to installing the foam. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to put the clips and you'll have to just rely on the double-sided tape, which frankly is probably fine, but if you want factory, there's clips. Now we're ready to put the bumper bars in and the foam. I'm still surprised, but these bumper bars, all they do is sit in there, and then the foam is what secures them, keeps them in place, I guess you could say. So we'll put those in now. Now we'll install the metal bar frame across the top. So there's the bar frame here, and then it gets secured with this bar in the center, and then on either side we have these pieces here. First we drop the bar in place. Now we'll be installing the carriage bolts and the those rubber eyelid things that are for the pop-up headlights to sit on, but that also secures that metal bar. They're all the same nut. The bar slides under the bumper, and then the holes, this piece, this ridge all the way across the bumper will be on top of the metal bar, and we have to line these holes up. And then this piece here is going to drop on here. All right, so now we install these, I guess you call them eyelets, and the longer side from here to here goes to the outside. You figure it out pretty quick just throwing them in here. But once we got the holes lined up, we just drop them in. And then for now, we just want to hand tighten these on with the nuts, because we're going to want to do this eyelet, the other eyelet, and the center bar all the same time to make sure everything kind of lines up and snugs properly. Another note, you always hear about NSX rubber portions of the car costing a lot of money, so I just double checked quick. First place I checked, this piece here is 47 bucks, not including the metal plate that is inside it. So that's kind of on the pricey side, but the center rubber piece, which I expected to be really expensive, was actually only 26 bucks, so not horrible in this particular case. Next, we're going to secure the middle aluminum bar. So I figured this out after installing it the first time. If this rubber's on, you actually don't need to take it off. I did thinking you needed to take it off, but you don't. Once you take off these carriage bolts, they just kind of stay in place. Whether the rubber's on it or not, you need to install one of these flat-headed shoulder bolts, and that goes in the corner here, and the other one goes in the corner over here. So we have the left side bolt and the right hand side. I think what these bolts do is they ensure that this metal bracket is properly centered, because there's some play in each of the tracks for the shoulder bolts that go in on that bar. So that's just ensuring that this is properly located. We're just going to take this bar and it gets dropped in with the carriage bolts. So this sits up here. And then the carriage bolts simply drop into here. And then we're going to hand snug with all the nuts all the way across. Now that we have everything hand tightened, we're just going to snug them all up. I would do it a little bit of randomly, so snug it up somewhat and then do a final snug, because that bar seems to affect the actual final shape of the bumper, because the bumper is pretty flexible, and once you tighten that down, it's kind of resetting itself. And then a final snug up, not too snug because it's only aluminum, but you want to get a little bit of pressure on there. Now we need to take the rubber strip, which goes into this top aluminum piece. So we need to slowly install this, and this is the cross section. The hood is going to come down like that. this way. So you're gonna wanna install the taller side on that side, the front side of the bumper. And we just need to kind of slowly press this in. Probably need a screwdriver to pinch it. And then we gotta go all the way across to the other side. Seems to be particularly difficult where the studs are. So wherever the studs are, the rubber has a more difficult time getting set in there. Definitely a little bit more challenging at those spots. Next, we need to install the metal side brackets here and here that'll go on the edges here and here. After a few attempts to get this piece on, I've learned a little bit. So we want to start with these holes here and lining them up here because that is the most difficult fitment point. And you kind of got to negotiate this top piece, and this hole will line up here. Once you get these in alignment and get some screws started in them, it should be easier to get these in here. All right, so with our new plan, we're going to use this as well. First, got to get these holes lined up. So here we are. That's pretty close as well. Let's get this started. Remember that silver bolt there is a little bit different than this, and this, which use those flat-headed bolts. All right, started. Go up to this guy, get this started. Okay, got that started. Then we move to, actually I'm gonna hold off on this guy. Let's get these in here. It's definitely a snug fit. Okay, I'm not snugging these down, but I do want to get them in place and at least mostly screwed down to keep this alignment. And then we're going to have to get this aligned here, which will be a challenge also. All right, so we got a total of 3 here, and 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Still not snugging tight. Okay, now that we've got all the bolts effectively secured on here, I think we can tighten this up. Start with the Phillips head bolts. And then finally, tighten up the 10mm nuts. And there we have it. We got that side done. We just need to repeat it on the other side. So again, the lesson is the most critical bolts to get aligned are here and here behind this plate. Once those are set, then you can get a couple in here, finish off these here, tighten this stuff down. Actually, I shouldn't say that. First, get these bolts started in here somehow, then tighten these all down, and then tighten these up. One item to check for is the seating of this metal plate here with the rubber on it. You can see mine is not really set quite right. So I'm gonna have to take that back apart and figure out what happened there. But it should seat nice. Might be bent a bit, it's pretty flexible. One item not to forget is the turn signal light nut plates. They go here and here. I'll show you. Here are the nut plates that are for the turn signal light to get secured. There are only 2 of them. I believe these are the only small nut plates in relation to the bumper. And they go right in this slot here. So very simply, slide this in, and then you're ready to go. So that completes the reassembly of the upper and lower half of an Acura NSX bumper. I did check it against the service manual, and I think it's 99% correct, so I think you should be in good shape.